You are listening to INTERFORM Podcast with Ro on the radio. You're going to want to hear this.
Welcome to INTERFORM Podcast. It's me, your girl, Ro on the radio. And this episode, we're going to be talking about monolithic views about different cultures. And I've got my guy, Samuel, here with me. I hope I said that correctly. Everybody knows Sam.
Yeah.
Sam, tell everybody who may not know you, but a lot of people know Sam. Actually, you are actually really involved in the community, and you do a lot of things with the community. But for those of you who don't know Sam, introduce yourself.
Oh, my name is Samuel Rivera Lopez. Rivera Lopez.
Oh,
yeah. You gotta give the Spanish twang in there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But to describe what I do, because like a lot of people know me, I think a lot of people know me for different reasons. Right. So like in the community aspect of things, I would say I organize, but more than organize, I love to bring people together. So like to have conversation and also to celebrate, but also because it's hard to like, how would I say this? Like screen it. Like sometimes like there's a lot of smoke in the air and people just need some clarity. And I think the best way to do that is to bring people together and be like, this was really going on.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And, but I started doing a lot of the community stuff when I was 17. So I turned 25 last month.
Oh, you a baby.
I turned 25 last month. But it's in those 8 years, it's been the evolution of going from a young organizer kind of. I started off in high school and then we started this group called Stitches, and that's how I met Robin. That's how I met a bunch of the cultural and arts people in the area. And it was funny because when we started, the Springdale wasn't on the trajectory it is now. It was like just introducing the master plan. It was doing all these things to kind of become, you know, a hub for creativity or business. And I was talking to the mayor after they had this thing called the Unity Fest. And I like stopped him like, hey, so like, how do I get a mural downtown? He's like, well, come to this meeting we're having at the old art center, the Ozarks, which is now a different thing. But we went in there and I invited a bunch of my friends from high school. And when they saw 20, 25 people that were teenagers walk in, and there was just a bunch of suits. And then they were all kind of like, who are these guys? Like, what are they doing here? You know, because like at that time, it wasn't common to see a bunch of young people trying to talk about what they wanted to see in their city. We might do it at school, but we're not presently active in those conversations. And so when they saw that, they were like, we want to bring y'all on to more projects. We ended up doing a mural at the Jones Center. We ended up doing stuff with the Arts Center with Crystal Bridges.
Wow.
And all those things kind of popped through. And then after that, you might know, I did theater. So I was an actor, I was a playwright for the Latinx Theater Project. Then I was a creative director at the station. Then I was arts consultant for the Creative Arkansas Community Hub and Exchange. And just ended up doing a whole bunch of different things, but always maintained the level of like, I'm from the community, so I'm going to speak for what I know, you know, is my community.
Now you're creative too, because you rap. Now, on top of, being an actor and an organizer, I want to know, like, what prompted you when you're 17? Like, what made you say, you know what, like, there's some things I need to change, or this is something I need to do?
Right. So I'm an immigrant. And the thing is, I don't feel like one because I was brought when I was 8 months old. So my existence in this country has been strictly political since really, I want to say my inception, but really since I could be conscious of having memories or having some type of idea of what life is, it came in the United States.
Right.
People always ask me, like, why do you keep doing it? Like, why do you keep, because every single iteration brings something to light. Every single time I mess up, I get better because I messed up.
Right.
I understand where I could do better. I'm not the best at any of the things that I'm artistically inclined to do, but I'm the best version of myself every single time I try to get better. And so the moment that I stop trying is the moment I let some other thing influence my drive.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? As long as I'm in my lane, you know, Yeah.
As long as I'm in my lane.
Yeah.
I want to talk about, I mean, before we get into, talking about monolithic views, about your culture, I want to talk about your involvement with helping, rebuild Springdale, after the tornado. Like, you are really involved in, like, your boots on the ground, trying to make sure that Springdale is being rebuilt. Like, tell me about your experience with that. I think it's really amazing, by the way.
No, I appreciate it. It's actually really
It seems hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is hard. Like it's one of those things where, like, it's hard to admit that, like, I need some help.
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
it is hard.
Because we got hit by the tornado, and then a bunch of things were happening around the same time. So it's like all these people get affected, not just, mentally, physically. Like, there's a whole economic just emergency that happens because some people even might not be like, you're not really prepared for, like, we can all say we're prepared for emergencies, but when the things happen, you kind of just like, hey,
what do you do?
Yeah.
Like,
and so what we did was we saw all the people that work for each other, work together, kind of come together and help. There was the same day, there was people cutting with chainsaws, cutting down trees. I brought my trailer and my truck, and we just started filling it up, found where to dump it. And 5 days, we were all by ourselves, like all the people in that community, outside people, like the people that do landscaping, roofers, construction workers, poultry workers. They just all came together and said, here's our little grain. Like, we're just going to clean up, because the first 5 days, really nobody from the city came to the area where we were at. And so that really kind of, you started to hear the bubbles of why we paying taxes. You know what I'm saying? I know we can't vote, but we paying taxes. And so what's going on? The disconnect was the miscommunication.
right.
And so what I said was like, well, if they're not going to help us, we got to help each other. And so there was a couple churches that came through and fed the people. But that's the one thing where I saw, it's like, we got food for days. Like, everybody came trying to feed us. Right? But few and far between were the people trying to help us rebuild it.
Interesting. You feel like that was intentional?
I don't know if it's intentional. What I do find is, like, at the basis of all things, that is the easiest way for people to say they did something.
I get it.
You feel what I'm saying?
And still take credit and just be like, yeah, I'm helping, but are you?
I think it's a little bit above the it's a little bit above the little retweet or the share, or like the thing. Like, it's good that you spreading the message.
Sure.
It's good that you're feeding somebody, but what can you go a little further? And those things are the hard parts where, like, I've realized, and I don't want to speak and generalize, a monolith. A lot of people, I think, younger in my generation, sometimes that's what we feel. I don't know if defeated. I don't want to say that, because I know we're not, but it's like there's this pressure, and sometimes instead of dealing with it, we're just kind of like, we're just gonna leave that to the side, because if I get involved emotionally, then I feel depressed, then I feel all these other emotions that I want to deal with.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, well, we can't run from this. You know what I'm saying? So the only thing you can do is stand up to it.
Yeah.
And if you stand up to it, you kind of realize, do you have the courage? Do you have, what are you missing to face these problems? Even though they're not created by us, they exist.
Right.
And that's ultimately where it gets hard, because I'm waking up every day, I'm like trying to call somebody, hey, can you come to do this? While still trying to manage the people that have already committed, and trying to say, because we don't have like a budget, because I'm not working with an organization that can, like, say fiduciary sponsor, or can financially litigate and say we're a nonprofit, so whatever you donate gets tax write-off incentives.
Right.
It's more so I'm just telling people, hey, like, if you find it in your heart to this is what we're doing for the people, and this is how you can help, because many of the people in the park were uninsured because the landlord didn't cut down the trees before. And this was something that was brought up to him a long time before. And we were looking to see if that kind of could be a lawsuit in terms of negligence.
Right.
Because even inside the park, there's a storm shelter, which I got up to go into the storm shelter because at 4 a.m. I felt my trailer lift. So I was like, man, either I stay in here or I'm leaving. And my mom was like, if you didn't try to go in that storm shelter and you got swept up, I felt like my mom was like, man, I'll be even more mad. You know what I'm saying?
Facts, yeah.
So I just ran into it, and then it's locked.
What?
Like, it was dead bolted.
lying.
No, it was dead. And so we were trying to yank it open, and my neighbors are right there, and we just start grabbing a hammer, try to hack it away. And then I hit it, and it hit my leg, but it broke open. But the thing is, like, the tornado had already passed, and we're just like, man, what?
Can't even get in the storm shelter.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're just like, what is going on?
Exactly.
You know? And then you see all the damage, all the stuff. The only thing I can say is when we're dealing with an emergency and things happen, like, I do find that at the moral basis of most people's character is compassion.
That is positive. Yeah. Yeah. I like that. Well, talk about your culture. So you are Spanish, you are native, and what else?
My great grandmother's from Spain. My other side great grandmother's from France. My grandfathers are from Mexico.
Okay.
And where we are in Mexico is the second most indigenous part of Mexico, and I think the third most populated with Afro. Well, I don't want to say Afro Mexicans. I want to say like Afro Latinos.
Okay.
Right. So, Guerrero is found on the western coast.
Okay.
And then where my mom's from is kind of Midland, Mexico. And so we are just a mix of things for the last 400, 300 years. And so I wouldn't even, the identity comes down to, I speak Spanish.
Okay.
Right. And the thing is, I'm a native person of the continent and also an immigrant because the people from Europe that came over. And so like, it's one of those things where in Mexican culture, especially like in Mexico, a lot of classism still exists. So, but there's also kind of like this wave of like the second president of Mexico was a black man.
Oh, okay.
So like, and he was the one that helped free the slave. No, right. So like, there's a whole thing with like the Haitian Revolution, the first emancipated people of the Americas. The Haitians actually left Haiti and go into Mexico and go into other places in Central America and help free the people of colonial rule. And so like, I'll be telling people, it's like, there's a lot of things that are interconnected, but people we don't talk about it because history kind of just forgets or kind of tries to suppress it. And so slavery was emancipated in Mexico, I think 80 to 100 years before the United States. So there was a lot of people going to Mexico trying to, flee the United States. And there's a large mixture of people. But now because certain people are in power in Mexico, it's kind of like the lighter you are, the closer you are to opportunity.
Wow. So I didn't realize, I mean, I kind of knew a little bit, but I didn't realize colorism was so heavy in other cultures as it is in Black culture, because it's still like that today.
Right.
Like even on down to like dating, there are some Black men and some Black women who don't want to date or marry anybody darker because they are afraid of their children either not having opportunities or them being bullied because they are darker. And like lighter skinned people are chosen for different things like jobs and things like that. I didn't realize that. That is like extremely enlightening. So what would you say, what are some of your experiences with other people outside of your culture that have monolithic views? Like, for example, if you're Spanish, then they may think they may not call you Spanish, they may call you Mexican because they don't know what you are, and they may assume that you're a certain way because you're Spanish or Mexican.
That's I think that's where the monolith thing is kind of interesting, because in Northwest Arkansas alone, there's a lot of Salvadorians, there's a lot of Hondureños, different Central American people. But because maybe a large audience of people aren't privy to that information, they kind of classify everybody as Mexican.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
So like, oh, you're Mexican. It's like, no, I'm Salvadorian. And the thing is, like, if you ask them deep down, they all hate being misrepresented. Like, they all dislike that so much. And it was funny because growing up, I was like, I had a little bit of that. And so I kind of realized my stepdad's Salvadorian, my little sister, my little brother are half Salvadorian, half Mexican. And so I'm just like, man, at the end of the day, like, they might talk a little different. They might have some different foods. But at the end of the day, they like neighbors. You know, like, they really ain't that. There's not that much different about us except these few little things we do different. And but we speak Spanish. We come from similar places. It's not. I see a lot of times it works together. You know, like, there's more strength in unity than there is in like trying to hate each other for being different.
Right. I think the frustration and the anger comes from people just automatically defaulting to Mexican because they are not educated on different cultures, and because they've never seen any other race. So they just automatically blanket anybody who looks close to Mexican as Mexican. And they may be from India, they may be Marshallese. Yeah. And I think that's kind of where some of the frustration comes from like, I feel like I might be offended if someone just classified me as Mexican when I'm from El Salvador, or vice versa. It's like, right. You know, really, you know what I mean? Like, have you not been, and some people haven't, they haven't grown up with any other cultures. And so that's just kind of what they default to. But how do you handle that? Like, when someone assumes that you listen to a certain type of music because you're Spanish, like, are you nice about it, or do you check them? And what is your response?
I laugh. Yeah. I just think like life's too funny. Like, sometimes you just gotta like, it's like certain moments are just comical. Like, you just gotta laugh at it because it's either ignorant, it's funny, or it's funny because it's true. Like, in certain, in some cases it's hilarious. Like, yeah, like, it's funny because you know I want that. Like, because you know where I'm from. Like, it's funny. It's because you can find some humor in it, but it's also a little bit like, you know. You know? But it's funny. It's funny because at the end of the day, what it is it's not a reflection of me. It's a reflection of where they are in their thought process. Now, that's a good way to look at it. Yeah, because it's also not my job to educate you.
Boom.
Yeah. Like, my job is to be me. You know what I'm saying? So, like, as long as as long as it remains words and those thoughts, that's up to you. But, like, once it starts negatively affecting me, then I got to do something about it. You know what I'm saying? As long as it's not affecting me in any physical harm or anything like that, man, say what you want to say. It is what it is. Like, I'm gonna get over that. Like, that ain't gonna.
There is an obligation, like you just said, that people sometimes feel like they have. Oh, I gotta educate this person on. Okay, well, it's not polite to say colored anymore. It is kind of offensive to someone who's like 90. But then, I guess you gotta pick. It's like a pick your battles type thing. Yeah. Because I've had that experience before where it's like, oh, you're such a pretty colored girl, and she was like 90, and it was in a store, and I didn't really feel like that was the time or place to correct a senior citizen, and and I think it was just because that's how she grew up. And I know some people are like, that's no excuse, but I think sometimes we do have to pick our battles, because what good would it do me to go off on a 90-year-old woman about that? And it also wasn't my job, like you said, to educate her about that. At 90, I don't really know what else you can educate someone on, right?
Well, I think what you did was show grace.
Yeah.
It was like, you kind of understood the situation. Was like
she's literally 90.
Yeah, like, there's certain people, I think that I can notice when they're on the cusp of like not understanding what they just said. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
But if it's somebody who I can totally tell, like, hey, that person really does not like people like me.
Yeah.
That no matter
Some
what.
little microaggressions.
Yeah. Like, why am I going to spend my time trying to, like, show him when at the end of the, show him, her, whoever, that what I'm saying, or they're just so ingrained that it's almost like, do I really want to spend time trying to dig this out of them?
Right.
Out when
you can't change them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I might even be able to, you know, get on the middle ground. But the more middle ground would be like, show him that it doesn't affect me.
Okay. Be unbothered.
Yeah. Like, in high school, I walked into the bathroom one day, and it was probably my senior year. And I didn't have long hair then. I was really just, that was the funniest thing about this hair is that, like, when I started to grow it out, that's when everybody started thinking I was Native American. But before,
a monolithic view.
Yeah. But then I was thinking of like, but you're all this if you grow your hair out. Like, you all gonna look somewhat Native. Y'all just cut your hair because that's what happened. We assimilated.
Assimilation. Yeah.
So I'm at the bathroom and I'm over here, like, I walk in and there's 3 bald kids sitting at huddled at a stall. So I'm just like, that's weird. I don't know what y'all doing. Like, that's
off jump. That's a little different.
Yeah. I was like, that's okay. And I'm like, all right, this is awkward. I don't think I want to be in here. So I turn because the faucets are right there where you can wash your hands.
Yeah.
And so I go and I start washing my hands, and guy turns around and was like, hey, we hate Mexicans.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, I just keep washing my hands. Like, it's awkward. I don't know what to do. I was like, thinking in my head, it's like 3-1 ratio ain't really, you know, I don't know. This ain't great.
Right.
So I think, but it's like, okay. He was like, did you not hear me, Mexican? And I was like, oh, I'll just keep, I dry my hands. Scary. And I look back, I'm like, but I love white people. And I just walk out. And then I go back to school. I go back into class. And the thing is funny is this kid's in my class my last hour. And so when that class comes up and we sit like 3 seats away from each other, this kid never talked to me again.
Oh, really?
Never talked to me. Never, like, just out of pure, like, I don't know, embarrassment or whatever. He's just like, you're weird.
What, was he the one who said it?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. I thought he was just with them.
Nah. He was like he was the leader, and then the rest of the 2 were just kind of like homies, I guess. But at the end of the day, it was just funny because it goes to show you it's not about. Everybody's looking for a reaction. Everybody's looking to make you feel annoyed, right? Because they want to see if they have power over you. And so my mom's always been like, it's just a word. Like, you decide whether it's power or not to you. You know what I'm saying? So if somebody calls you stupid and you turn around, them you think you stupid? Like, I was like, you are what you respond to. And so my mom's like, I'm not gonna respond to nothing that's negative because then I'll feel some type of negativity.
Yeah.
You are listening to INTERFORM Podcast with Ro on the radio. You're going to want to hear this.